Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH. Today we're looking at Nath of the Gilt-Leaf. So Nath is a 5-mana Golgari commander. It's a 4/4 that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may have target opponent discard a card at random, and whenever an opponent discards a card, you may create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. So only having one opponent discard one card per upkeep, or per your own upkeep, might seem like it's too slow, but this does actually surprisingly add up pretty quickly. And because the card is random, it also severely screws up what they're trying to do. So obviously Nath wants to pair up with things that synergize with discarding and creating tokens. So what are we doing? Well, first of all is our card draw. So we've got the typical in Necropotence and Sylvan Library. We also got Yawgmoth in here. Tiny Bones, which triggers if an opponent discarded a card and you draw a card. We've also got Gyre Reach Sanitarium, which is a way to force our opponents to discard so that we can make more tokens with Nath, and Dark Deal does similar things. Skipping the combos for now, we then have additional, essentially discard-based stacks. So cards that cause our opponents to keep discarding. So Bottomless Pit, during each player's upkeep, that player discards a card at random. Dark Deal, we've already been over that. Death Cloud, X black, black, black. Each player loses X, discards X, sacks X creatures, and sacks X lands, which is perfectly fine when you have Nath in play, because if you have Nath in play, what that'll do is sack a whole bunch, everyone, loses all of their resources, but then you get a bunch of Elf Warrior tokens because of Nath's trigger. We also have Oppression. Whenever a player casts a spell, the player discards a card. Sadistic Hypnotist, sack a creature, target player discards 2, activate only as a sorcery. And then Tiny Bones, and then of course Waste Not. We've got some fast mana in Calling Ritual, Dark Ritual, Jeweled Lotus, bunch of lands. Gaia's Cradle particularly good when you're making a bunch of tokens, and Phyrexian Tower also slightly better than normal. Added in Volrath Stronghold here as a way to get creatures back from the graveyard on top. Some protection, Destiny Spinner makes stuff uncounterable, Veil of Summer and Autumn's Veil to protect, bunch of ramp spells, bunch of removal spells, so Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, Dismember, Force of Vigor, Grist, Nature's Claim, and then Yawgmoth and Orcish Bowmasters kind of count. Then we're also, again, we're playing a Stacks deck primarily. So Stacks deck, we've got Chains of Mephistopheles, Orcish Bowmasters, and Sheoldred to either stop or punish draws. We've got Skooz, Dothy Voidwalker, and Leyline of the Void to hit the graveyard. We've got Chalice of the Void, Root Maze to slow down opponents. We've got Tangle Wire, also slows down opponents. Torpor Orb for ETB triggers, because again, none of our stuff really has any ETB triggers. And Nether Void, counter spells unless the controller pays an additional 3. So essentially it adds attacks of 3 mana to all spells, and Opposition Agent to shut down searching effects. And then a bunch of tutors, like an absolute huge amount of tutors, including tutors that are not often played, such as Fiend Artisan, Praetor's Grasp, Worldly Tutor. So then we've got our combo cards. So the easiest ones are obviously Yawgmoth plus Hapatra. So this is just activate Yawgmoth, sacking a creature, target an opponent's creature, put a -1 counter on it, trigger Hapatra, make a snake token, then you can sack the snake token. So however much life you have and however many toughness your opponents have in terms of their creatures, you can just activate Yawgmoth, machine gun down all the creatures, and draw a bajillion cards. Although we don't have any outright combo with Yawgmoth in the deck, like there's no Zulaport, Cutthroat, or Blood Artist or anything. We, of course, have the Witherbloom Apprentice Chain of Smog combo, so whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And Chain of Smog, target player discards 2, then you can copy this spell and choose new targets. So you can target yourself, discard your whole hand, and keep copying this over and over and over to trigger Witherbloom. Of course, this combo is always risky because your opponent can just allow you to start the combo. You discard your whole hand, and then they can interrupt you by either countering Chain or killing Witherbloom. So do make sure that you are protected before you start this. And then we've got Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which is good for giving combos to other creatures. Like we can, maybe if our Yawgmoth dies, we can turn another creature into a Yawgmoth. And then we've got Earthcraft to untap stuff. So Earthcraft is also particularly good in that it's comboing with all of the various tokens that we're making and other things in order to untap our basic lands to give us more and more mana. But primarily, this deck is not really a combo deck. It's more of a stacks value deck. So the main thing you're looking to do is you're looking to stacks your opponent out with either pure stacks cards and or the various discard effects, including Nath himself, and then basically run your opponents out of resources or ability to do anything and just overwhelm the board with superior card advantage and tokens. And that is really what Nath is doing. So that is going to be every card and synergy and strategy needed to understand Nath of the Gilt-Leaf.